folks, Casey here. I'm starting on the exhaust system on the Mustang, so I figure I'd take you under the car and show you what I have going on. All right, so since the last update, the engine is in, transmission is in, headers are in, and exhaust extensions coming off the headers are the start of my exhaust. So anytime that I build an exhaust system, I start with the confines, the things that have to be a certain way. At the heart of this exhaust system is an X-pipe, and the Roadster shop chassis is meant to have the exhaust run right through the middle of this transmission tunnel. They've got the reinforcement plate here. It gives you room for two 2.5 inch pipes, and then of course the drive shaft runs right through the middle there. So as you can see, I've got cardboard on either side of my X-pipe, and basically what I did here is I took a bunch of dimensions and I built this on the bench. So I've got, you know, a straight shot off the bottom of the X right down the tunnel here into a 15-degree bend out either side. And my muffler's attached right here, and they aim right at the axle on either side. It's pretty tight, but it fits pretty good. And I'll show you the mufflers shortly. But coming from the back here, you can see I've got about 3/8 of an inch of cardboard on all sides. And when I weld my hangars in, I'll make sure they're loaded, and hopefully this will stay put and not rattle. Because if it does, I'm gonna have to go back to it. So now, I basically have to build from these extensions off the headers through this hump in the transmission cross member and into the X-pipe on each side. You can actually see the whole thing on the passenger side. Bring you guys back under the car here. I welded these extensions onto the X-pipe, got them up nice and tight to the transmission cross member. I used cardboard once again, taped to the cross member to give myself a gap, and then I actually used a C-clamp to hold the pipes in place so that they wouldn't move as I tacked everything in place. Backing up here, I've got my my pipe that connects the header on the passenger side to the X-pipe. It was a little tricky because I had to jog around the transmission. But basically my method for doing this, you just cut up a bunch of mandrel bends, you know, get various angles, and then you come up underneath, use some masking tape, tape them up, tack them, pull it out and fully weld it, you know, so you can weld all the way around it nice, and then come back in and, you know, build gradually. So right now I got to do this side, but that's a much straighter shot because I don't have to jog around the transmission on this side. Moving back towards the rear, I've got the mufflers tacked in place, pair of Dynomax race bullets, 12-inch length. These suckers are pretty loud. I really like the way they sound though. And as you can see, they're angled out at 15 degrees away from each other, and they're kicked up over the axle. I got a lot more room on the passenger side than I do on the driver's side because the pumpkin is offset to the driver's side. As you can see up there, I've got an upper 4-bar, and then you're like right into the angle of the housing. Whereas on this side, I've got, you know, a 2.5, probably more like 3-inch gap. But the tailpipes are gonna go up and over, and then through these cutouts in the tank, they're gonna exit out the rear valence. Everything on the Roadster shop chassis is a tight fit, but it's gonna look pretty good. All right, so now I'm trying to connect up this side right here. And a thing that's helpful when you're doing this is to know what the angles you're working with are. So one easy way to do that is to get an angle finder, all right? And that's showing like 0.8 degrees. Let's go ahead and zero it. Okay, so we've zeroed it. Now, we can reverse our 1, 2, 3 block and go up here. And we've got 36 degrees. So perfect. Now we can take that measure over to our miter saw. All right, so over here we got the Evolution miter saw. It's in a tight corner of our shop. You're probably gonna have to take my word that it's set at 36 degrees, but that is 36 degrees right there. Safety glasses on. Let's go ahead and cut. little bit tricky to do one-handed, but it makes a nice clean cut. All right, so I've got my extra length kind of jammed up there along the side of my stub, but as you can see, this is gonna give us just about the perfect angle. Now this isn't in line perfectly this way, so I'm gonna have to do a little 45 with a jog and then another 45, but that gets us there. Two 45s, take and flip them end to end like that, and then make a 180-degree jog. So if it doesn't look like 180 degrees, it's just parallax with the camera, but it looks spot on to me. Okay, and now we're all the way connected up to the flange. Before I pull this exhaust system out to finish weld it outside of the vehicle, I've drilled and tapped a hole right here. Where I can put in my exhaust hanger bracket like so. I can thread a bolt in there like so. And then I can come in and I can tack weld this bracket to my muffler, and that will keep everything fully fit when I remove the exhaust. So here we have the exhaust fully welded up and installed. Hangers are hung. You guys can see there's just just enough room all the way around. And it is a tight package. Coming through here, we got our X-pipe. Snake around the transmission and up into the header on one side. Little jog around the transmission there and up into the header on that side. There we go from the front. Once again, tight quarters as we go up into this transmission tunnel. Everything on the Roadster Shop chassis is tricky in terms of the packaging. Anyway, and now to go up and over the axle, which is also going to be tricky. And hopefully I don't have to pull the axle out of the car to weld everything up. So I went ahead and took a chance and ordered up some tailpipes from Flowmaster. I know these aren't going to work without some kind of modification, but the nice part about them is they give you a lot of extra material. I mean, this is going to hang out the rear valence almost a foot as it is, and most of this area in the front is excess as well. Looks like I have enough of a hump. The angles are roughly correct, but I know I'm going to have to do some slicing and dicing to make them fit with my front half of the exhaust system.
A few moments later.
How it started versus how it's going. Over here is a Flowmaster 67 to 73 Mustang tailpipe. Closest to the camera here is what I had to come up with to fit the Roadster Shop Spec chassis. All right, and here's another view of that same tailpipe installed. It's kind of hard to see here, but there's the 4-link bracket I was trying to dodge. Basically it has room to travel up and in now. I also had to clear that triangular gusset, this cross member, and the coilover. As you can see, very tight fit around the gas tank, and then to the frame rail. And then you can kind of see, this looks like it's going straight out. It's still angled this way just a little bit. There was no way between the Roadster Shop frame rail and the gas tank to get it going perfectly straight out because it just wanted to occupy the exact same space. I mean, I could have, but then the tailpipe would have been hanging really low. So one more jog there to get it as straight as possible. And it hugs the inside of the tailpipe opening, but I don't really think that's a bad look. So there it is. So once you have your pieces, it's relatively a matter of reassembling the components and then trying to figure out the best way to orient them. You want to have a pen close by so that you can make reference marks, especially when you're sliding a pipe into a muffler, because we want to make sure that we're reinserting it into the muffler a consistent amount every time, whatever that slip is. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to weld these tailpipes to the mufflers or use some sort of clamp fitting. So we get, start with our constraints, right? So we start with the muffler. You notice I put a little pick in there to basically load the pipe up slightly so that it's not hanging down, because it will go up slightly once it's clamped. And if I do decide to weld it, I can easily duplicate that positioning. Go ahead and throw our other pipe in here, like so. And then, it's simply a matter of eyeballing the clearances that we need, putting it in place. Don't be afraid to get your hands up in here and reach around and make sure you have clearance. Luckily on this side of the track bar, this is the frame pivot side. So while it's gonna move, it's not gonna move nearly as much as on the other side. So, and of course it wants to aim right at the gas tank like that. But if I turn it any more, it's into the shock. So we'll tack it in place here, make some reference marks on the pipe so we know where to put it back, and then we're gonna have to do like a 90 elbow and then another 90 to get it around the gas tank and heading out towards the rear valence. Tight packaging on the Roadster shop chassis. All right, so once you get the pipe pulled back out of the car, line up your marks. Make sure you don't get confused by any erroneous marks that you might have accidentally made. And then place some tacks. After your first tack, it's always a good idea to kind of double check your fit up. I like to do about 4. And set the welder nice and hot for tacks. Now we can build from here. All right, so now with our piece tacked in place, and then slide our tailpipe into place and get a look at it. Now, I'm not worried about the final positioning of the tailpipe yet, but I am concerned about having the correct angle on the tailpipe. A 1, 2, 3 block can be helpful. Some scraps of wood. Hell, even a screwdriver handle sometimes is just the right height, right? We want to get that kind of like in place, and we want to see what we need to get our tailpipe connected to our midpipe. All right, so from here, up and over, and then into our tailpipe like this. So that's about the shape of the bend that I'm gonna need. Okay, so what I ended up coming up with is a bunch of pie cuts to make that tight radius bend, and I'm doing what's called a skip stitch technique here. I wouldn't normally recommend a skip stitch, but on exhaust tubing, it's a valid process. All right, and that is what I came up with. My hand, so you can see. Got just a little bit of breathing room here, and then we'll actually cut and increase the angle of this bend to get this coming more straight out once I weld this section back together. All right, so now we have our tailpipe coming out where we want it, angle and height. We take our hanger, which I pre-bent, and you kind of throw it up there in a position where it looks like it's gonna work. You mark the inside of your hole, and then you center punch it, and then you drill it. Oh my gosh, dude. little deburring action. We've got a nutsert and a little nutsert holder slash installer tool. This is not the right size, but it's gonna work. All right, there we go. So this tool works by holding the nutsert in place, and then you just crank it down. Try not to let the tool move, so I'm not blocking the camera. All right, once she's tight, pull back, loosen up your bolt. And there is one firmly installed nutsert. Go ahead and tighten up our bolt. Now the one last trick here is you want to make this as tight as you're going to make it when this thing's fully installed. Make sure your pipe rests in it before you tack your hanger in place, because you don't want anything to move once it's installed final. So we got a nice little gap all the way around our frame, and that's gonna work. Okay, and here we are installed. So you can see, nice and tight, up and over. Just enough room to clear everything that it needs to clear into the rest of our exhaust system. What do you say we get this thing on the ground and fire it up? All right, folks, I think that's it for this one. My ears could perceive just a little bit of an exhaust leak noise on this thing, so I think I'm gonna have to revisit those tailpipe clamps. I'll probably just end up welding them up. Anyway, we are not very far away from that first test drive, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and you won't miss it. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.